As you may be aware, Veritas Prime has changed the way that we book travel. The new booking process will be done in Concur by using their travel module. When you log in, you will notice that your homepage would have changed. It has an additional feature which has the trip search, as well as the My Trip section, and a few other alerts and messages. Before we go into the actual booking process, I want to show you some of the key things that you need to update on your profile. So if you go into your profile settings, personal information, you're going to want to add in contact information and as well as emergency contact information. This is important for when you're traveling, so please make sure that you update this information. In addition, you have the option to add your preferences, your travel preferences. So, you know, air travel preferences, hotel preferences. You know, car rental is not necessarily that important because we do have a corporate provider, which is Avis. Additionally, you can add your reward programs. So once you click agree, it will allow you to add all of your reward programs so that when you're booking, you do get your miles and your hotel points. And that'll all happen within the Concur booking process. Additionally, you can add your TSA if you have the TSA pre-check or if you have global entry. This information can be added here. I would also recommend adding your passport. It just helps with any international travel. So again, when you're booking, it will, you know, the airline should not require you to enter your passport information. As far as credit cards, this is not necessary, given that all of the booking options such as hotel, rental car, airfare, this will all be done on a corporate card, and we'll show you when we go through the booking process where that selection is made. So again, before you do anything, come in, make sure your profile is up to date, because there are new required fields that you do need to enter. A few other key settings down here in other settings is the e-receipt activation. So when you are using the booking tool, obviously it's going to our corporate card, so you wouldn't connect the card like you normally do today. But the way that you'll get your receipts are through the e-receipt activation. So this will actually email to your Veritas Prime email address when you do your booking. So make sure you come in and activate that. That way you have your receipts directly mailed to you, and you don't need to go, you know, log into the hotel or to your travel programs to pull down the receipts. So we're going to back out, go back to the home page. Notice here, and I'm actually going to switch to another account so I can show you that I actually have a trip already booked in Concur, so you can see what that looks like. So notice down below I have a trip that was already booked. It's nice. It'll consolidate all of your trips for you, so you're not having to remember, you know, what airline, what hotel you booked. It actually puts it all into a nice itinerary. If I click on this, it'll show me my itinerary and gives me the options if I want to print it, cancel the entire trip, and, you know, in review or select any seats. So again, this there is in the company notes you have a agent assistance. One thing to note: if you need to change, please be aware that this on your travel, that is where you would use the travel agent. You only use this for changes. If I back out, if you need to change, it's fine to use it, but it is a cost service added. So when you call this number, just make sure that you do have a legitimate change. It's not just to ask questions. You know, please contact Kevin or myself, Nick, if you have any travel, you know, general travel questions. So in order to book a trip, again, you have your left-hand search screen here. And I'm just going to say I have a trip going to Las Vegas. I'm booking out, say, April 16th. I mean, this is very similar to, you know, the search tools that you may use, like Orbitz or Cheap Tickets. You can also add to find a hotel. It'll ask you, you know, to find within a certain address or location. So in this case, I'll just say 5 miles from Las Vegas. You could also say, well, I want to search for, let's say, Hilton hotels only. Here's your airfare. You just leave that as a default, and I click search. So a few things we've added. We do require you to add the trip purpose. So again, Veritas Prime internal travel. This would be an example of company trip. You're coming to one of the offices, or it's just travel that's not specific to a single client. Sales related, so if we've asked you to go do a demo or join the sales team on any travel, this would be the option you would select. Client travel, this is typically what most of you will be selecting. This is when the client is paying for the travel and you are traveling to the client site or any other location that is required. But this is the key here, is that the client is actually paying. You will know this based on your project manager or partner that's in charge of that project. Typically, like I said, most of your travel will be the client paid option. We have a fourth option here, which is client travel, but we actually are covering the cost. These two options are, you know, to the end user, they may not seem very different, but behind the scenes from a bookkeeping perspective, it's very important we make the right selection here. So the Veritas Prime paid, you would be told if this is a Veritas Prime paid client trip. So for example, if we have a team going to Dana, and let's say somebody is shadowing the project, we're not going to charge Dana for that shadow resource going there, right? So we would, that resource, when they book their travel, they would know to select the Veritas Prime paid option. Okay, so in this case, I'll just select Veritas Prime client paid. Purpose, again, it could be, doesn't have to be you know, very lengthy here, but you know, Dana project, let's just say kickoff for learning. Client name, this is not a drop down, it just makes maintenance much easier, so just put in the client name here. It just helps from a reporting perspective. So here I am, I'm brought to my search screen. I've got all of my different flight options. Again, I can shop by fare, I can do it by schedule. So it's very, I would say, very easy to use. I have my different options here on the left-hand side that you know, are you know, very easily made. You know, selections are very easily made here. You can, you know, pick connecting airport, you know, filters. But again, obviously being cost conscientious, we are we have obviously the policy around the cost and number of stops. That's all in the travel document. I will also log back in as a employee to show you some of the warnings and features when it comes to a cost perspective. These are, again, documented in the travel policy. Most of our, I would say, our warnings and approvals that are built into the travel are what they call passive approval. So what that means is if our rule for, and I don't know off the top of my head, but if our rule was, let's say, $500 for a flight, and you want to, and the only option left is to pick this $700 one, when you pick it, well, first of all, it'll be highlighted in red. When you pick it, it'll ask for a reason why you're choosing this one. So it's not going to stop your booking process. It is a passive approval. But we will be reviewing this based on selections, and we will be looking for valid reasons. So let's just say I'm going to select this one. So in the next step in the process, again, it just gives me a review of the flights. I can change my seats. You can see it defaulted my frequent flyer program. It warns you it's a non-refundable ticket. Here is actually the one of the important features I want to show. This is where you would be selecting a specific card. When you book, there will be 4 cards. As of right now, there's really only 3. You can disregard this one. This one's my own corporate card. You would have client paid travel, which is the selection I made. So again, majority of the time you're going to be selecting this. Internal travel, company trip, maybe it's Success Connect. That would be your internal option. Again, sales travel, and there'll be a 4th option, which will be client, Veritas Prime, client travel, VP paid. So Veritas Prime paid client travel. So those will be your 4 options. Please make sure you are cognizant of what you're selecting here, because again, this impacts the entire bookkeeping process, because these expenses, when they get booked to the card, are tied to our QuickBooks account, which hit a certain line item on our books. So it's very important that you are selecting the right one. It makes Kevin's and my job much easier, so we're not having to change things. I don't want to reserve the flight, so I'm going to stop at this point. The next step would be very similar. It's going to bring you to the hotel selection. The process is very similar to again, how you select your airline and then your finalizing of the trip. So I'm just going to go back to the home page. Now, there are features to book for a guest. So, if you did want to add a personal card to this, again, you saw that in the profile where you can add credit card. Technically, you could add a card. It would come up in the drop down, and you could use this for personal travel. Please contact us if you plan on doing that, because again, when you add a personal card and you're doing a personal trip, the chances of you selecting a corporate card on a personal trip, it increases those risks. It has happened in the past, and that again just makes the back office work. It increases it. So hopefully you find this process to be much more seamless. I will say that I haven't yet for myself seen how the linking to the expense report is, but as I sent in the chat the other day, where when I go to my upcoming trips, there was a well, here we are right here. Let me see if I can expense this trip. It should create, there we go. So it should create my expense report. Let's actually go through this right now. So this is a non-billable trip. It is a internal sales trip. So yeah, okay. You can update this report name. Again, we have naming conventions for these in the travel policy. So it will add in your expenses. In this case, I actually booked my hotel outside of this process. So really, the only thing additionally you'll have to add to your expense report are the incidental items. So the Uber trips, the food, or your per diem, or if you're doing it, if the client is requiring, if they're a non-per diem client and you're doing expensing out every meal, you would want to copy your receipts, and you would be selecting employee paid, right? Because anything outside of what you're booking through here, other than Uber, is going to be covered by you, and you will be reimbursed, just like the process works today. So before we go and look at some of the Uber process items, I want to show you again real quick from an employee perspective the warnings you'll get. So I'm gonna just try to book a trip. Let's say I want to leave Monday, Thursday. Search. Again, I have my trip purpose. Let's just say it's sales. So notice when I go and I hover over these green check marks, this trip conforms to your company travel rules. So it'll tell you when it's conforming. If it's not, it'll be highlighted in red, and you'd be clearly made aware that that's outside of policy. So let me see if I can find a trip. So here we are. These are, as you can see, this option breaks one or more of your company travel rules, and it'll be logged if you purchase it. And again, you can see the reasons and explanation why. So it's basing it off of basically what they call as a logical airfare. This is $6.80, and we have a rule set up with if it's within so many dollars, the least logical air. Then it would be okay. But in this case, it is over the least logical airfare, so by quite a bit. So that's the reason why it is being flagged. And the same essentially works for the hotel. So when you get to the hotel step, it will also flag that as well. At this time, we're going to go ahead and now look at the Uber process, which is pretty straightforward, but we have had some challenges in the past, and I think with the new corporate setup, it'll be much easier. Okay, now we're going to go through the new process when it comes to booking yourself in Uber. So when you go to the app, first thing to check for is in the top right corner, you are under the Veritas Prime account and not your personal account. So again, you have your personal and you have Veritas Prime. The next thing is to select your location like you normally would. Confirm pickup. Now at this step, it should be clear. If you're doing a personal trip, it should prompt you to back out. So this would hopefully help with the issue where we had people kind of forgetting to change the account and booking personal travel. So this would be your indicator of like, well, okay, I know I'm in Veritas Prime now, so I should back out and change my profile. Right now, this is text. So you would either enter internal travel, either sales travel, or client paid, or client not paid. Eventually this will be a drop down, so it would be a selection of one of those 4 codes, and once you enter your code, you just hit done. Everything else from a payment perspective is taken care of via our corporate card. You would, as long as through your Uber profile, you should still get the receipts sent to your email, so that would be how you would add them to your expense report. And that's it. That is the end of basically the new process for Uber. It's pretty straightforward. Thank you.